York State Police Superintendent Stephen James. And the 57th Governor of New York, Governor Kathy Hochul.
Thank you. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome. Please be seated. I want to acknowledge the extraordinary public servants that surround me and are in this room, starting with Superintendent Stephen James, who's really risen to the occasion. We have been through so many challenges working through weather-related and violence-related and so many other situations that have come to the forefront, and I've always had such extreme confidence in your leadership. So let's give another round of applause to our superintendent. Andrew Davis, the first Vice President of the New York State PBA Troopers, and Ron Peroni, the board member of the New York State Police Investigators Association, have joined us as well, representing the men and women of those two organizations. Let's give them another round of applause. And our partners in making sure that the laws that we write are enforced. I want to thank all of our district attorneys who've joined us here today. Mary Pat Donnelly, the Rensselaer County District Attorney, Tony Jordan, the Washington County District Attorney, Chris Liberate Conant, Columbia County District Attorney, Anthony Parisi, Dutchess County District Attorney, and Morgan Bitton, the Executive Director of the District Attorneys Association of the State of New York. I want to thank all of you for joining us as well. Thank you to our District Attorney. Representing New York City, Miley Cleveland, the citywide trustee for the NYC PBA, Betty Cardaro, the recording secretary for the PBA in New York City, and also Marcus Waltor, the president of the New York Troopers Association, and Kelly Owens, the director of our Office of Violence Prevention and staff. So thanks all of you for coming here today as we talk about why we're here. And we're here because we have some extraordinarily good news. But later this morning, I'll be speaking to 181 new state troopers who just finished basic training in the police academy. I've spoken at countless graduations, and it always just makes my heart well with pride to know that individuals coming from every corner of the state are willing to go to the grueling training and all the challenge that it takes to be able to be walking across that stage and to be able to be called part of the family, the New York State Police family. I'm so proud of all of them. I look forward to addressing them momentarily. So that's always a big honor for me. I also tell them it's a noble mission, that what they're called to do is something they answered, a call that they answered that is available for many. And very few step up and say, I'm willing to do what it takes to protect my fellow citizens, members of my community, and actually complete strangers. So they and I share the same priority. Number one priority is public safety and keeping New Yorkers safe. That's the fundamental role of government, the foundation on which all other rights that we have here stand. This is my 5th time since May talking about our statistics on fighting crime. It's important for me to keep the public informed on the work we're doing. Now, you'll recall back a few years ago when I first became governor, there were people who recklessly called for defunding police and showing disrespect to the individuals who wear these uniforms, who are out there in harm's way. And people talked about taking money out of police departments when we truly needed that funding to be there to support them and help their communities. So not only did we say that's not the right answer, we have now, over the last 3 years, funded police at historic levels. No governor in history has funded the state police at the level we have. I've increased the state police budget by 30%. We've added 1,000 new positions. We've added more academy training sessions, now going up from twice a year to 4 times a year. But also not just our state police, but also no governor has invested more in local police. For 3 years now, we've secured an unprecedented $350 million to combat gun violence crimes. And much of that does go right to our localities. We've also recognized that so much more needed to be done to enhance the coordination and provide technology. And under my watch, and thanks to law enforcement in every corner of our state, today I can proudly say that New Yorkers are safer and better protected than they have been in many, many years. And so today we'll outline some of the latest crime statistics that prove our investments and our strategies are working. Let's start with outside New York City, where crime is 28% lower than it was in 2010, 40% lower than it was in 2000, and 63% lower than it was in 1990. In fact, in 2024, we have the third lowest crime rate since 1965. Think about that. Third lowest crime rate since 1965, when people did not even have to talk about crime because they felt innately secure. Over the last year, shootings are down 26%, murders down 12%, total crime 10%. That's not over decades, years. That's just since last year, as proof that even when the numbers started trending in the right direction, we did not take our foot off the gas. We continued the investment. We continued the training. We continued making sure that our law enforcement had the most technologically advanced devices, and now we can say that just in 1 year, it's gone down that much. Let's zoom out for a minute and look at the last 3 years in office. Statewide, including New York City, murders are down 38% since 2021. Shootings down 46%. Think about this. In 2024 statewide, we're on pace to have fewer shootings and fewer murders than any 1 year since the 1960s. That's New York City and rest of state, lowest murders, shootings since 1960. And it's consistent across the board. Gun violence is declining in every region. Here in the capital region, incidents of gun violence are down 30% in the last 3 years. And as we drive down crime, the only numbers you see going up are the illegal gun seizures and felony arrests. And since I took office, state police illegal gun seizures are up 170%. Thank you to my state police for refocusing their energy. And we talked about this when I first became governor. I appreciate our road warriors protecting our highways and byways. But I wanted to make sure that while our individuals are out there on our highways, that they're also part of a strategy to stop the illegal guns from flowing up the iron pipeline and coming into our cities, many coming in through Pennsylvania, I-81, either going up to Syracuse or heading the other direction, heading toward New York City. And that's one of the reasons, for the first time in our nation, one governor here has created a consortium of contiguous states. 11 other states are part of our team to share data, to talk about people before they cross the lines into other states, and to stop them cold in their tracks. And that is one of the strategies that is working to keep illegal guns out of our streets as well. For police agencies statewide, all across New York, felony arrests are up 40%. And the results are undeniable. This has a real effect on what people are seeing and feeling in their communities. Now, I watch television when I'm working out in the gym. I see a lot of ads that are trying to create fear, to make people feel like, especially as we get closer to Halloween, that there's this sinister feeling out there that politicians trying to score political gain. And I'm telling you, you can watch that, but also I'm here to tell you the truth. Here's the data. Despite what you're hearing from the fear mongers that are out there today, murder and gun crime rates are down lower this year than they've been in 60 years. U.S. News and World Report put out a report in August listing 8 New York State counties among the safest 25 communities in the entire country. The entire country. So when people talk about rampant crime and making all these outlandish false claims, New Yorkers see through that. They know better than that. They trust the word of law enforcement and the public servants standing with me. They trust the work of these brave men and women doing every single day to keep our communities safe. And New Yorkers know we don't live in a dangerous dystopia where that's portrayed by the right-wing media or in the virtual social media post that pops up every day. And it's not what they're seeing and experiencing in communities when they walk out their front doors. So don't get me wrong. I will never say everything's perfect. No matter how good the statistics get, we're going to make them even better. Even better. And I'll keep reporting to the public on our progress. Crime does happen. That's why it's so important that we continue to support our local police. And one crime victim is too many. There's always more work to do, but it does not negate the fact that New Yorker is much safer today than it was 3 years ago or even 1 year ago. And let's put a special exclamation point on that. And while we've made great progress in dealing with gun violence, we're applying the same rigor, the same strategies to other crimes, including domestic violence. We know this is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. We wear purple out of respect for the survivors of domestic violence. And you've heard me talk about this as something personal to me. My own mother had to witness as a child an abusive environment. Her father against her mother. Father eventually left. This person was so emotionally abusive that my mother could have been scarred for life and chosen a partner that was not healthy for her either, because it becomes a cycle. Kids don't know any better. This is the world they exist in, and so they often make the same mistakes that their parents made, that their mother made. My mother broke free from that and actually became an advocate for victims of domestic violence back in the 1970s, when they were called wife beaters. And police officers would be called to the home when there's something happening, a woman being strangled, attacked. 911 gets called, police officers went to the home to respond. And if the man went to the door and said, "Don't worry, everything's fine here," back then they would turn around and walk out the door. Laws were changed, my mother was an advocate, and since that time, there has been a recognition that you don't stop at the door, you investigate, you find out what's happening at home, and you might just be the person who saves a life. And we've done that. And so, these are the memories and stories that my mother shared with me. I saw her do that work, that counseling. People called our house. She became a suicide prevention counselor. She became a marriage counselor. She was always trying to take the lessons from her own childhood and make sure no one had to live through that experience that she did. And that is what was still harbored deep inside of me as well, in her memory. So, her work had a profound effect on many. And today, as the position of governor, I can use that knowledge and experiences of so many women and men throughout this state. And that's why I announced the largest investment in state history to combat domestic violence, $35 million. The Capital Region alone received $3.3 million dedicated to fighting domestic violence. And we'll take the same focused, collaborative, evidence-based tools that worked on gun violence and use them against domestic violence. Here in Upstate, we're creating a program called STRIVE, Statewide Targeted Reductions in Intimate Violence. STRIVE will bring together our district attorneys, thank you, our police agencies, probation departments, community-based organizations, and each of them will create plans specifically tailored to meet that county's needs. And will hold the perpetrators accountable and ensure that services for survivors are not just accessible, but trauma-informed and survivor-centered. So more women will get the help they need and get back on their feet and break the cycle of violence once and for all. And I'll also say, it's not just about the moms, it's about the children who live in hell, who don't understand what true love is, unconditional love is. And those are the children we saw at the Home for Domestic Violence Survivors that my mother and father started. Those kids had hard, cold eyes because no one treated them with love. And over time, we saw them start to melt. And it gave me a lot of pride. There's a lot more kids out there that we have to help. Let them see it does not have to be that way. That is not the life that they are destined to live, because that was their experience as children. My mother is proof of that. So as I stated, our work on fighting crime is far from over. And the reward for work well done is a chance to do more. My team and I are working on various state-of-the-state proposals that'll build on our successes fighting crime and fostering safe communities. Because when we know this foundationally, when people are safe and feel safe, they can focus on other things that matter, raising their kids, advancing their careers, leading happy, fulfilled lives. That's the New York that we are building, and we could not do it without the partners in law enforcement who are here with us today. Leaders like our next speaker, a 32-year veteran of the state police, doing a tremendous job since he's taken over the helm as superintendent over the last year. I want to thank him. Ladies and gentlemen, I present our state police superintendent, Stephen James. Thank you.
Good morning. I want to start by thanking Governor Hochul for your continued support of the New York State Police. And also, I'd like to thank our local partners. The additional funding that has been provided by the governor over the past couple of years is having a significant impact on our operations. The services we provide through New Yorkers are certainly prudent. We've ramped up our recruitment efforts, and in so, we've been holding simultaneous classes at our academies in Albany and also at the former Casanova College, moving us toward fulfilling our staffing needs. Later this morning, as the governor said, there will be 181 new troopers who will graduate from the Albany Academy and head out to field training. We are also accepting new applications for our troopers. The exam, and yes, this is a plug for recruitment, the exam is going to be in the fall of 2025 for the applicants for trooper. We continue to focus our efforts on getting the illegal guns off the street and out of the hands of criminals. This includes the work from our community stabilization units, which assisted cities throughout upstate, particularly focusing on intelligence-based tactics to target gun violence and other problems that emanate. One example of this effort is currently in the city of Rochester, where we have developed and deployed processes including troopers throughout our community with regard to the stabilization, the GIVE initiative, Gun-Involved Violence Elimination. We work alongside the Rochester Police Department and the Monroe County Sheriff's Office to address public safety issues. The governor also provided resources to stand up our organized retail theft initiative. We work closely with the national and local retailers, along with our federal, state, and local law enforcement partners, to address the wave of retail theft that was sweeping throughout the state. Since the efforts have started, on March 15th, we've arrested more than 500 people and recovered more than $147,000 in stolen property. So in closing, I simply want to thank our members and our law enforcement partners. These troopers standing before you, the officers, the investigators, the detectives, and the supervisors who are out on the street every day making a positive difference in our communities, I truly thank you. And I know the governor also shares my sentiments. You all signed up for a difficult job, you do it well, and we appreciate your efforts. We all remain fully committed to serving and protecting all New Yorkers. Thank you. Now I'd like to introduce Andy Davis from the PBA.
I'd like to start out by thanking Governor Hochul for running consecutive State Police Academy classes. These additional troopers are needed in the field and are greatly appreciated and will be by the citizens of the state. The New York State Troopers PBA is looking forward to working with the governor for the next few years.
Thank you.
And we are to ensure the safety of the people and the prosperity of the people of New York. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. Ron Peroni, the board member of the New York State Police Investigators Association.
Good morning, Governor. I'd like to thank you for allowing us to be here. My name is Ron Perone. I'm the Troop G&H delegate for the New York State Police Investigators Association. We represent around 1,100 investigators and senior investigators throughout the state of New York. Like all law enforcement, we've experienced large numbers of retirements since COVID. The additional funding that Governor Hochul has directed toward recruiting new troopers is much needed and greatly appreciated. In addition to providing much needed funding, Governor Hochul routinely holds meetings with law enforcement agencies to discuss the mental health crisis, something that not many leaders do today. Together, we are making progress with these issues and ensuring that the New York State Police remains one of the top law enforcement agencies in the country. Again, Governor, thank you, and thank you.
Thank you for joining us today, and if we can have our district attorneys come up and take a photo with us as well, we'd appreciate that. District attorneys? Good morning, and again, thank you for joining us as we announce some very positive news regarding our fight to reduce crime here in the state of New York and continue our priority, which is to protect all New Yorkers. I'm really proud to have had the support of law enforcement here today, as district attorneys, our superintendent of state police, and from NYPD, as representative was here as well. So the statistics speak for themselves, and we're going to continue the fight, and next time I'm going to come up here and tell you they're even better. That's our focus.
Any on-topic questions on public safety? Alex?
On Friday, a federal court overturned or ruled unconstitutional parts of the Concealed Carry Improvement Act related to carrying guns in a public place or a private place that is open to the public, and also the social media review aspect of the bill. I'm curious if you have any intention, if that does stay overturned, stay ruled unconstitutional, if you would consider another law addressing those aspects again next year?
I will never stop in my pursuit of the ultimate goal, which is to protect New Yorkers. Governors before me have had the right to protect their citizens with a law that's been on the book for over 100 years. And the day that the Supreme Court overturned my right to protect the citizens of the state of New York, we immediately sprung into action after the Bruin decision. And as you mentioned, we changed the law to define, based on language that the Supreme Court said we could do. They said we could have a ban on concealed carry in sensitive places. Sensitive places was not defined. We took it upon ourselves to put in the parameters of what we believe that was, representing the people of the state. Also, I do believe that there are indicators that arise on social media that indicate that you would not want this person living next door to you who have a gun. And again, our responsibility is to find every way we can to protect the public. And if that means when they're applying for a pistol permit here in New York, to be able to have the full scope of this person's story, because right now, we're basically getting that. We knock on doors, go to neighbors' houses, ask if they've seen anything. So we already are, in a way, examining that person's story through all the background checks, their story, what they've told, but also what others say about them. This is analogous to that, just that social media is the new platform for human interaction, not just talking to your neighbors on the street. And we're just trying to adapt our laws to give me the maximum powers to protect citizens. I know a little bit about this because as county clerk, I oversaw the background checks and made sure that all the work was done before they got to judges for approval. So I was involved. But I'm going to stand firm with our laws. We're going to look at all of our options. And if going back to the legislature and finding other ways, I will continue doing that. We are not finished in our quest to protect New Yorkers here in the state of New York.
Governor, can you talk about the statistics as far as Western New York and the Buffalo area goes? As crime numbers similar to the ones.
Do you have the numbers for Western New York? You want to just provide them later?
I can provide it to you later, yes, I have them.
Okay.
Yep.
We have them for all the regions. Buffalo is one of our 26
I
or,
have them right on my computer.
okay,
I'll give it to you.
36 or 32, 20, how many give jurisdictions do we have?
There are 28.
28, 20. Buffalo is one of our give jurisdictions where we've had enhanced resources given to them. It's a gun violence disruption program. And Buffalo's numbers are looking very good as well as all of our upstate cities are. So we'll be happy to give that data to you. And all the other specialized, geographic markets, we'll be happy to provide that.
Anything else on public safety? Is that on topic, Roger? Okay, so thank you, Marcos, thank you, Superintendent.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Appreciate you being there.
All right. Let's party. Any off topics, folks? Roger, we'll start with you.
Governor, on CPAP, there have been some industry accusations that the process was rigged from the start in choosing the statewide fiscal intermediary, PPL. Can you address that? And follow up, can you also speak to if you're worried or not about the legal challenges that have been kind of mounting against that program and whether that could delay the implementation?
I'll take the second one first. Legal challenges are nothing new. We'll address them as they arise. The first statement is categorically false. This was a process that was managed by our Department of Health. And for those who are trying to undermine the decision-making process of these professionals, these public servants, I resent that. And one only needs to look at the genesis of why we took on this issue. States like California, double our population, have one financial intermediary to manage this program. New York State, being as entrepreneurial as we are, had 700. Those individuals are not involved in the direct care of those who need the most help. I am most concerned about the people that this program was designed to help, allowing people to have family members and others that they feel confident with, be able to take care of them. And our goal is to keep people out of assisted living facilities, keeping them out of nursing homes, and to give them the quality of life that they deserve. But the cost of this program, because of these financial intermediaries and the way it's been abused here in the state of New York, the costs have gone up from, I'm going to fact check myself on this when I leave here, but from about $2.5 billion to over $9 billion, just since 2015. So when you track those numbers and you're doing your budget, you're saying, I look at this, say, why has no one else raised this before me, is the number one question. That other states have one or two people managing just this, the paperwork, the bureaucracy involved. I want to make sure that the money does not go to them, but it goes to the people who need the services. You'll not see that on television ads. You'll not see that in their lawsuits, but that is the core of why we're doing what we're doing, because I want to make sure that that program is financially viable going forward, that our citizens in most need get the support they want and deserve.
There's a report today that representatives of yours reached out about a potential job in a potential Harris administration. I was wondering if that's the case, and would you consider a job with a President Harris if you were offered one?
You're going to hear this a lot during this silly season of politics. Categorically false. I love being the governor of New York. I have lived in Washington. The first 10 years of my government career was in Washington. I spent time there as a member of Congress. I love New York. I am not leaving New York. So all that is false. There are bad actors out there, once again, purveying in lies. And I'm always asking my friends in the media to ask for names as you're fact-checking.
I don't know who their sources are, but who are those bad actors, do you think, who are running this?
People are trying to create the notion that I'm not running for re-election, and I'm running for re-election. Yeah, there's a lot of people in that category.
John?
Governor, you've made very clear, both in conversations with the media as well as with the mayor, with Mayor Adams, that you wanted him to clean house, as you put it. But the mayor himself has been accused of fraud, of bribery, of participating in a straw donor scheme. So what's the thinking behind pushing for the mayor to clean house of some of his aides, but not pushing for the mayor himself to resign?
The operative word that you used is accused.
Well, what about the aides, though? The aides haven't even been formally accused.
But there are investigations around them, and I believe the best interest of the 8.3 million New Yorkers that I also represent is to stabilize the situation instead of having day after day after day of blaring news headlines about Who else has had an investigation? Who else's cell phone was taken? Let's just, as I talked to the mayor about, clean house, start with people either from the outside or within. There's a lot of good, hardworking public servants who are now given the opportunity to rise to the top. They understand the inner workings of government, and that's what my focus is. Is government still functioning at the levels that New York City residents deserve? That's it. I'll be watching to make sure that this is all happening. And part of that comes to creating the confidence that is necessary. And this is what goes to the cleaning house. New Yorkers need to have their confidence restored, that their lives will not be disrupted. That is my top concern.
The mayor himself remains under investigation, though. Is that not the noise that you're referring to there?
The difference is there are employees at will, and then those are individuals in their positions because of the will of the voters. There's a big difference between those two categories of individuals.
Governor, many pro-Palestine advocates are unhappy with how the state has responded to protests. What do you have to say to New Yorkers and students who feel they are being silenced and that it is unfair to be labeled as anti-Semitic for advocating for Palestinian solidarity?
People who are not saying anti-Semitic remarks, I don't believe are being called anti-Semitic.
Well, what do you have to say to New Yorkers who feel the state is disproportionately focusing on New Yorkers who are standing in solidarity with Israel versus advocates who are advocating for Palestinian solidarity?
Everyone has the right to protest, but what you have to focus on is the time, place, and manner restrictions that are in place for everyone, regardless of the topic of their protests. Therefore, if people are following the rules, having peaceful protests, not staying encampments overnight, barring other students from legitimate access to places on campus, then that is the way it is appropriate and is legitimate and should continue. The question is when that is violated. You know, as we saw last spring, the rights of so many students who in fear went to their classrooms being called horrific names, anti-Semitic names, discriminatory actions and behavior toward them. That is unacceptable. I wouldn't accept that against any student. So that's our position. It is firm. We're going to make sure that people have the right to protest legitimately. But if you cross that line and attack another person because of their religion, you are in violation of state and federal human rights laws. The institutions that allow that to happen are in violation of those laws. That's what I also warned we'll be looking to enforce.
Great. We got to go to the state police graduation.
All right. All right. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.